What's up, designers, and welcome back to Rempton Games. So today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm making another Pokemon team video. I've done this once in the past. In that video, I made Avengers Pokemon teams, and this time I'm doing it for Avatar: The Last Airbender. Hi, Sophie. So before we begin, there's a few things that I should note. The first thing is that today we're only going to be talking about characters from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the original series. We're not going to be talking about Legend of Korra. I'll probably cover them in a future entry in the series. So for now, it's just Avatar. The second thing to note is I'm doing this a little bit different than I did last time. So last time I was kind of making up the teams on the fly. This time, I already have the teams and the pictures prepared. I actually worked with my brothers Nathan and James to come up with these, so thank you so much, guys, for your help. And hopefully that'll make the process a little bit smoother. And I'm just going to basically be showing you guys the teams that we put together and explaining why I put those Pokemon for those characters. Without further ado, let's get started. So the first team that we're doing here is Aang's team. And there's a couple things we wanted to capture with Aang. So first of all, he is the Avatar, which means that we have to have representatives of all four elements involved. As you can see here, we have Tornadus representing the element of air. We have Primal Kyogre for water. We have Torterra for ground or earth. And we have Infernape here for fire. But we didn't want to just choose random, flying and water types and everything to represent those elements. So we're pretty specific with how we chose these. So first off, Tornadus is interesting because he's basically the only pure flying type. So he purely represents air. We chose Primal Kyogre because of the scene at the end of the first season where Aang merges with the ocean spirit. So Primal Kyogre kind of resembles that merged spirit form. We chose Torterra to represent the lion turtle at the end of the series, and Infernape to kind of represent the martial arts and that sort of Eastern wisdom that is represented by Aang. So the other two we have this Noibat, and that's basically our equivalent of Momo, the flying lemur. And you can see in the back here, we have a giant Linoon. So the giant Linoon is there to represent Appa. You can think of this as maybe it's like a Dynamax Linoon. And we just thought it was such a great fit because of the colors, and it has the arrow marking on its head. We thought that'd be a great fit for an Appa. So yeah, that's Aang. Next, we've got Azula. And a couple things going on here for Azula. Obviously, Azula being the princess of the Fire Nation, we're gonna want some fire types, and her gimmick is that her fire is so hot that it's actually blue rather than red or orange like most firebenders. So we kind of represent that here with the Mega Charizard and also with the Marowak. The Mega Charizard is actually representing her relationship with her brother Zuko as well. We gave them both Mega Charizards, but we gave them different forms. So she gets the blue fire, and I forget whether it's X or Y. I have a hard time keeping track of which is which, but she gets the one with the blue flames. We have Marowak. That is also a bit of a counterpart with Zuko. In this case, Alolan Marowak kind of represents her relationship with her mother, specifically sort of being haunted by the memory of her mother and kind of driven crazy by it a little bit. We also have Toxtricity, who represents her ability to generate electricity and also the fact that she is toxic. Once again, we have a Seviper, which is not only a fitting Pokemon for Azula, but it also represents the rivalry between her and her brother. So this Shining Ninetales is also to represent her blue flame, but it's also very regal to show her as kind of the above-it-all princess of the Fire Nation. And finally, we have this shiny Greninja here, which represents not only her kind of sneakiness, but is also there kind of to represent Mei and Ty Lee, her friends who help her hunt the Avatar. Okay, that's it for Azula. Let's move on to Katara's team. So Katara, of course, is a waterbender. She's from the South Pole, so we definitely need some Pokemon to represent that aspect of her personality. So we have, of course, a Piplup. This represents the penguins that are found in the South Pole. Her and Aang actually go penguin sledding in the early episodes. We have this Frostlass, which is not only a frost spirit type, but also represents Katara's short time as the Painted Lady. We have Vaporeon here, who, aside from being another water type, we originally considered giving Katara a Suicune, and kind of decided against it as we weren't sure if she necessarily should have legendary Pokemon on her team or not. So Vaporeon is basically the non-legendary version of Suicune, and one reason that we thought Suicune would be good for our team was the ability to kind of clean and purify the water, which is something that we've seen Katara do. Similarly, we know that Katara is a healer. That's one of her main roles on the team. And Audino is a healing Pokemon. So we wanted a Pokemon on our team that would represent that aspect of her. And I believe Lapras and Primarina are here mostly because they're additional water types and they feel like they would fit really well on her team with the rest of these Pokemon. So finishing up with Katara and moving on to her brother Saka. Alright, so Sokka's team's got a few different things going on. So first of all, Saka is a warrior, and we thought that Samurott and Lucario would kind of help represent that aspect of his personality. He's a swordsman, right? But also Lucario kind of represents that wolf mask that Sokka wears when he goes to battle in the earlier parts of the series. And I believe he paints his face at certain points that kind of looks like a Lucario. Drifblim and Blacephalon are both here to kind of represent Sokka's ingenuity and his inventiveness. So Sokka is often using explosives, the same way that Blacephalon uses his exploding head. And Drifblim is here to kind of represent that Sokka helped the Tinkerer, the inventor at one of the air temples. He helped him invent the war balloons. So that is what Drifblim is here. Blacephalon is also here to kind of represent that Sokka is a bit of the comic relief. He's a bit of a clown. So Blacephalon helps represent that. Shiny Aegislash here, of course, represents the space sword that he makes in the 3rd season out of the meteor. Shiny Aegislash is a black blade, much like the sword that he uses through most of the season. And finally, we have Lunatone here to represent the moon, to represent his girlfriend, who unfortunately becomes the moon spirit. So that's what we have for Sokka. And moving on to Toph's team. So Toph, of course, is Aang's earthbending teacher, also the inventor of metal bending. And Toph is also the champion of the kind of underground earthbending ring. So we've got a couple different Pokemon to represent that. So Toph is, I think, the only person other than Aang that we gave a legendary Pokemon to. In this case, Registeel, because she is the inventor of metal bending, and we figured that was deserving of a legendary Pokemon. So Registeel here represents Toph inventing metal bending. Machamp represents her being the champion of the underground earthbending ring. You can see he's got that championship belt. We chose Dino because Toph, of course, is blind, and Dino is also blind, and also they kind of have similar hairstyles. Excadrill, of course, represents the Badger moles that are also blind that taught Toph how to earthbend. Finally, we have Golem, who is not only a representative of Earth, we wanted to make sure that she actually had enough Earth types on her team, but also kind of represents the way that Toph often covers herself in like a rocky armor. And finally, we included Embor, because Embor sort of represents the flying pig on the Beifong family crest. We wanted to make sure that she had a boar on her team, but we chose Embor specifically because he's very ornate, he looks very regal and royal, and she comes from a very prestigious family, so we thought that would be a good fit. Last but not least, we have Zuko's team. So, a lot going on here. As mentioned when discussing Azula, there are a few Pokemon in this team that kind of represent the relationship, the rivalry between the two of them. So just as Azula gets this Mega Charizard, Zuko gets the other Mega Charizard form. And once again, I have trouble keeping track of which is X and Y. We also gave him a Zangoose, not only to represent the rivalry between Zangoose and Seviper, but also because of the scar over the eye. We have Cubone, which is not only a counterpart to Azula's Alolan Marowak, but also represents the loss of his mother. We gave Zuko this shiny B-Sharp. Sorry we couldn't find a better image of it, but the shiny B-Sharp represents the Blue Spirit, the alter ego that Zuko takes on. Drampa represents his relationship with his wise old Uncle Iroh. Finally, we also gave him Volcarona, not only to represent a very regal Pokemon for him becoming the Fire Lord at the end of the series, but also kind of to represent him being a bit of a late bloomer, as Volcarona is one of the latest evolving Pokemon that there is. And that's all I've got. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss more like this in the future. And if you want to see more entries on this series, please let me know in the comments and leave suggestions for different series or different types of things that you would want me to make Pokemon teams on in the future. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.